Hey there, you're looking kind of cute. Don't forget to subscribe and check out all my other socials. Enjoy. The room spun as Gyro cracked open his eyes, taking in surroundings that seemed vaguely familiar, yet wrong somehow. Pale pink walls adorned with posters of boy bands and teen heartthrobs gradually came into focus. A white vanity cluttered with makeup and hair accessories sat in the corner. Gyro blinked in confusion, his foggy brain struggling to make sense of the scene. This was Saoirse's old bedroom? But why was he here instead of crashed on the couch downstairs like usual after a night of drinking? Gyro tried to sit up, but a strange weight on his chest made the movement awkward. Looking down, his eyes widened in shock. Instead of his own muscular torso, he saw the swell of breasts straining against a lacy purple camisole. Long strands of auburn hair fell across his vision as he jerked upright in alarm. What the hell? The voice that emerged was high-pitched and distinctly feminine. Heart racing, Gyro stumbled out of bed, nearly tripping over unfamiliar legs. The mirror above the vanity reflected an image that made him recoil in disbelief. Staring back was not his own rugged face, but the delicate features of his younger sister Saoirse. No, this can't be real, Gyro whispered, watching the reflection's lips move in sync. He, or rather she, was dressed in Saoirse's typical sleep attire of a silky camisole and sleep shorts that revealed long, shapely legs. Gyro's mind reeled as he took in the transformed body. The hangover fog cleared instantly, replaced by rising panic. This had to be some kind of elaborate prank, right? Saoirse must have somehow gotten him drunk enough to pass out, then dressed him up and applied tons of makeup while he was unconscious. Saoirse, Gyro yelled, wincing at the high feminine pitch. This isn't funny! What did you do to me? Silence greeted the demand. Gyro yanked open the bedroom door and stormed down the hallway towards Saoirse's current room, prepared to give her an earful for this ridiculous stunt. But the room was empty, bed neatly made as if no one had slept there. Gyro's bare feet slapped against the hardwood as he ran downstairs, calling out for his sister. The house was quiet and still. A note on the kitchen counter caught his eye. Their parents were away for the weekend at a friend's lake house, which meant Saoirse should be here, unless this wasn't a prank at all. The terrifying reality began to sink in as Gyro stared at his delicate hands, turning them over in disbelief. Somehow, inexplicably, he seemed to have swapped bodies with his sister overnight. Oh God, Gyro moaned, sinking into a kitchen chair. This can't be happening. But the evidence was undeniable. Every movement felt foreign in this petite frame. Gyro could feel the sway of breasts with each breath, the brush of long hair against bare shoulders. When he crossed his legs, smooth skin slid together instead of the usual friction of hair. How is this even possible? Gyro racked his brain, trying to piece together the events of the previous night. He remembered going out to a bar with some friends to celebrate finishing finals. There had been shots, lots of shots. After that, things got fuzzy. Had he taken something, made a wish, pissed off a witch? None of those scenarios seemed plausible in the harsh light of day. Yet here he was, trapped in his sister's body with no idea how or why. Gyro's gaze fell on Saoirse's phone, left plugged in on the kitchen counter. With shaking hands, he picked it up and navigated to her contacts. He had to talk to her to figure out what was going on. Had they somehow switched places? Was she in his body right now, equally confused and terrified? The phone rang several times before going to voicemail. Gyro hung up without leaving a message. What could he even say? Hey sis, I seem to be borrowing your body. Mind if we swap back? He tried texting instead. Saoirse, it's Gyro. Something really weird has happened. Call me ASAP. Setting the phone down, Gyro paced the kitchen, hugging his arms around this strange new body. What was he supposed to do now? He couldn't go out like this. He had no idea how to act like a woman, let alone his own sister, but he couldn't just sit around waiting either. What if this was permanent? The thought sent a fresh wave of panic through him. Gyro's reflection caught his eye in the hallway mirror. He paused, really taking in the image of his sister staring back at him. Saoirse was pretty in a girl-next-door kind of way, with a smattering of freckles across her nose and large green eyes framed by long lashes. His? Hair fell in messy waves past the shoulders of the purple camisole. It was surreal seeing his sister's face mimic his own confused, scared expression. Gyro raised a hand to touch the smooth skin of his cheek, marveling at how different it felt. No stubble, no angular jaw, just soft curves and delicate features. A buzz from the kitchen made Gyro jump. He rushed to grab Saoirse's phone, heart pounding with hope. But it was just a news alert, not a response from his sister. Gyro groaned in frustration. He needed answers, and he needed them now. Maybe there was a clue somewhere in the house. He started rifling through drawers and cabinets, not even sure what he was looking for. A magic potion? Instructions for how to undo a body swap? It all seemed ridiculous, but so did his current situation. An hour of frantic searching turned up nothing useful. Gyro slumped onto the couch, head in his hands. He had never felt so lost and helpless. Being in this unfamiliar body was disorienting enough, but the lack of control over the situation was maddening. He needed to get out of the house, to do something productive while he waited to hear from Saoirse. But that would mean going out in public as her. The thought made Gyro's stomach churn with anxiety. How was he supposed to pull that off? Still, he couldn't just sit around feeling sorry for himself. Taking a deep breath, Gyro stood and headed back upstairs to Saoirse's room. Time to figure out how to be a woman, at least temporarily. The closet was a bewildering array of colors and fabrics. Gyro stared at the hangers in dismay, having no idea where to start. He knew Saoirse usually dressed pretty casually. Jeans and t-shirts mostly. That seemed safe enough. After some fumbling, Gyro managed to clasp on a bra, silently thanking Saoirse for being a fairly modest B-cup, and wiggle into a pair of skinny jeans. He tugged on a simple green V-neck shirt that brought out the color of his eyes. A glance in the mirror confirmed the outfit looked normal enough, if a bit rumpled. Makeup was out of the question. Gyro wouldn't even know where to begin. He simply ran a brush through the long auburn hair, wincing at the tangles. How did women deal with this every day? Shoes were another challenge. Most of Saoirse's collection had at least a small heel, which Gyro knew he'd break an ankle trying to walk in. He finally found a pair of worn Converse sneakers that seemed manageable. Dressed and moderately put together, Gyro gathered up Saoirse's phone, keys, and wallet. He paused at the front door, suddenly overwhelmed by nerves. What if someone who knew Saoirse tried to talk to him? What if he ran into one of his own friends? The possibilities for disaster seemed endless. But staying cooped up in the house wasn't going to solve anything. Squaring his shoulders, Gyro stepped out into the bright summer morning. The first thing he noticed was how much more aware he felt of his surroundings. Sounds seemed sharper, colors more vivid. Was this how women always experienced the world? Gyro's new center of gravity took some getting used to as he walked down the driveway. He felt off balance and awkward, hyper-aware of the sway of hips and bounce of breasts with each step. Thank God the street was empty of neighbors. Saoirse's old Civic was parked in the driveway. Gyro slid into the driver's seat, having to adjust it forward several inches to reach the pedals comfortably. Everything felt subtly wrong as he gripped the steering wheel with smaller hands. Where exactly was he going? Gyro realized he hadn't thought that far ahead. He just knew he needed to be doing something, anything, to distract from the rising sense of panic. Maybe a drive would help clear his head and spark some ideas. As Gyro navigated the familiar streets of their suburban neighborhood, he tried to take stock of the situation logically. Somehow, he had switched bodies with his sister overnight. There was no rational explanation for how this could have happened. Therefore, the solution was likely to be equally irrational. Magic? Aliens? Some kind of Freaky Friday scenario? None of those options seemed particularly helpful. Gyro found himself wishing he had paid more attention in his college philosophy classes. Maybe then he'd have a better framework for grappling with this insane situation. Lost in thought, Gyro almost missed the figure jogging along the sidewalk ahead. He slammed on the brakes as recognition hit. It was Mark, one of his best friends from high school. Gyro's first instinct was to wave and call out, but of course Mark wouldn't recognize Saoirse's face behind the wheel. Gyro hunched down, praying Mark hadn't noticed the car, but it was too late. His friend was already jogging over with a friendly smile. Gyro's heart raced as Mark leaned down to peer in the passenger window. "Hey, Saoirse, long time no see," Mark said cheerfully. "How have you been? How's Gyro doing?" Gyro gaped for a moment, frantically trying to figure out how Saoirse would respond. "Oh, hi, Mark," he managed in a high, nervous voice. "I'm good, thanks." Gyro's, he's fine. Super busy with work and stuff. You know how it is. Mark nodded sympathetically. "Yeah, I hear that. Tell him we should grab a beer soon and catch up." "It's been too long." "Sure thing, I'll let him know," Gyro replied, trying to keep his voice steady. "Well, I should get going. Nice to see you." He threw the car into drive and pulled away perhaps a bit too quickly, leaving a confused-looking Mark in his rearview mirror. That had been a close call. Gyro had no idea how to make small talk as Saoirse. He'd have to be more careful about running into people they knew. The adrenaline from the encounter left Gyro jittery and on edge. He needed to calm down and think rationally about next steps. Coffee. That's what he needed. There was a quiet little cafe on the edge of town where he could regroup without worrying about running into more familiar faces. The cafe was mercifully empty when Gyro arrived. He ordered a large black coffee, needing the caffeine hit to combat both his lingering hangover and the stress of the morning. Settling into a corner booth, Gyro pulled out Saoirse's phone to check for any messages. Still nothing? Where could she be? It wasn't like Saoirse to ignore texts, especially one as urgent as his had been. Unless a chilling thought occurred to Gyro. What if Saoirse wasn't in his body after all? What if she had simply disappeared when he took over her form? The implications were too awful to contemplate. Gyro's spiraling thoughts were interrupted by the buzz of Saoirse's phone. His heart leapt, finally. But it wasn't Saoirse. The message was from someone named Aiden. "Hey, beautiful, still on for our date tonight? Can't wait to see you." Gyro stared at the screen in dismay. Of course, Saoirse had mentioned going on a few dates with a new guy recently. He vaguely recalled her gushing about how sweet and handsome Aiden was. And now he was expecting to go out with her tonight. This was a disaster. There was no way Gyro could impersonate his sister well enough to fool a guy who was interested in dating her. But he couldn't just ignore the message either. That would be completely out of character for Saoirse. After agonizing for several minutes, Gyro finally tapped out a response. "Hi, Aiden. I'm so sorry, but I'm not feeling well today. Can we reschedule?" He hit send before he could second-guess himself. It wasn't ideal, but it bought him some time to figure things out. Hopefully, the real Saoirse would be back in her body before she had to deal with makeup plans. The rest of the day passed in a haze of anxiety and confusion for Gyro. He drove aimlessly around town, too keyed up to go back to the empty house, but unsure where else to go. Every glimpse of his reflection in the rearview mirror sent a fresh jolt of disbelief through him. By late afternoon, hunger finally drove Gyro to stop at a drive-thru for a burger and fries. He was midway through unwrapping his meal when Saoirse's phone buzzed with an incoming call. Gyro's heart leapt when he saw the caller ID. It was his own number. "Hello, Saoirse?" he answered breathlessly. "Gyro? Oh, thank God!" came his own deep voice, thick with relief. "What the hell is going on? I woke up in your body, and I've been freaking out all day." "I have no idea," Gyro replied, sagging with relief that his sister was okay. "The same thing happened to me. I'm in your body somehow. Where are you?" "I'm at your apartment," Saoirse said. "I didn't know what else to do, so I've just been hiding out here. This is insane, Gyro. How is this even possible?" "I wish I knew," Gyro sighed. "I've been racking my brain trying to figure it out. Did anything weird happen to you last night? Did you make a wish or piss off a witch or something?" Saoirse was quiet for a moment. I'm not sure. I went out with some friends last night, too. We ended up at this weird little shop that sold crystals and stuff. The owner was this old woman who kept staring at me. Oh God, you don't think she actually put a spell on us or something, do you? It sounded ridiculous, but no more ridiculous than their current situation. Maybe, Gyro said slowly. Can you remember where this shop was? It's worth checking out at least. I think so, Saoirse replied. It was down that little alley off Main Street near the record store. Oh, this is so weird hearing your voice coming out of my mouth. Tell me about it, Gyro agreed. Okay, let's meet at that alley in 30 minutes. Maybe we can find this shop and get some answers. They said their goodbyes, and Gyro scarfed down the rest of his meal before heading toward downtown. His mind raced with possibilities. Could some little old shopkeeper really have that kind of power? And if so, how the hell were they going to convince her to switch them back? The alley Saoirse had described was narrow and dim, tucked between two taller buildings. Gyro arrived first, pacing nervously as he waited for his sister. It was surreal seeing his own body approach a few minutes later, moving with Saoirse's characteristic bounce. This is so weird, Saoirse said as she came to a stop in front of Gyro. Her eyes, his eyes, were wide with disbelief as she took in her own form. You're telling me, Gyro replied. Come on, let's find this shop of yours. They made their way down the alley, peering at storefronts. Most appeared to be closed or abandoned. At the very end, a small sign caught Gyro's eye. Madame Zora's Mystical Emporium. That's it, Saoirse exclaimed. I recognize that creepy cat statue in the window. Gyro tried the door, surprised to find it unlocked, despite the closed sign hanging in the window. A bell jingled as they stepped inside. The shop was cluttered with shelves full of crystals, candles, books, and various mystical-looking objects. Incense smoke hung heavy in the air. Hello? Gyro called out tentatively. Is anyone here? A curtain at the back of the shop rustled, and a wizened old woman emerged. Her eyes widened as she took in the sight of Gyro and Saoirse. Ah, she said in a raspy voice. I was wondering when you two would show up. Gyro and Saoirse exchanged a startled glance. You know about our situation? Saoirse asked hesitantly. The old woman, presumably Madame Zora, cackled. Of course, my dear. I'm the one who cast the spell, after all. But why? Gyro demanded. We never did anything to you. Madame Zora fixed him with a stern look. No, but you've done plenty to each other, haven't you? Always bickering, taking each other for granted. I merely provided an opportunity for you both to gain some perspective. Gyro bristled at her presumptuous tone. That's ridiculous. You can't just go around body-swapping people without their consent. Change us back right now. The old woman's eyes flashed. I'm afraid it's not that simple, young man. The spell will only be broken when you've both truly learned to appreciate and understand one another. Until then, you're stuck as you are. That's insane, Saoirse protested. We're siblings, of course. We fight sometimes. But we love each other. You can't do this to us. Madame Zora simply shrugged. The magic has been cast. It's up to you two to break it now. I suggest you start by really listening to each other for once. With that, she disappeared back behind the curtain. Gyro lunged after her, but the fabric simply melted away at his touch, revealing a blank wall. The old woman had vanished. And Gyro turned back to Saoirse, seeing his own shocked expression mirrored on his face. What the hell do we do now? Saoirse slumped against a shelf, looking defeated. I guess we learn to live in each other's shoes for a while. God, this is such a mess. Gyro ran a hand through his long hair in frustration, still not used to the sensation. Yeah, no kidding. Come on, let's get out of here. We've got a lot to figure out. They made their way back to Saoirse's car in defeated silence. As they drove home, Gyro's mind raced with all the complications this situation presented. Work, relationships, daily life, everything would be affected. How long would they be forced to live like this? Back at the house, they sat at the kitchen table, both lost in thought. Finally, Saoirse broke the silence. So, I guess we should start by filling each other in on our lives, so we can fake it convincingly until we figure this out? Gyro nodded wearily. Yeah, good idea. You go first. Tell me everything I need to know about being you. For the next few hours, they traded information about jobs, friends, routines, and relationships. Gyro's head spun, trying to keep track of all the details of Saoirse's life. How was he supposed to convincingly impersonate his little sister for who knows how long? As the sun began to set, they finally wrapped up their crash course in each other's lives. Gyro felt completely drained, overwhelmed by the magnitude of the charade they'd have to pull off. "What are we going to tell Mom and Dad?" Saoirse asked, voicing the concern that had been nagging at Gyro as well. He sighed heavily. "I have no idea. Maybe we should avoid them for a while if we can. At least until we get more comfortable in these bodies." Saoirse nodded in agreement. "Yeah, that's probably smart. God, this is going to be so hard, Gyro. How are we going to pull this off?" "I don't know," Gyro admitted. "But we don't have much choice. We'll just have to take it one day at a time and hope we figure out how to break this spell soon." Gyro stood and stretched, trying to ease the stiffness from sitting so long. It had been an overwhelming day, and he needed a moment to collect himself. "I'm going to take a quick bathroom break. Thanks for watching. The rest won't be viewable on YouTube, so check out Patreon if you want more. I hope you have a wonderful day, my cutie."